The media for years has treated the claim that the right stokes the most political violence as settled fact. The left regularly accuses the right of hate-mongering. There's a constant whataboutism. The right argues the same thing in reverse. Both parties are basically doing the equivalent of the Spider-Man meme, blaming the other for raising the temperature in the United States. But Twitch streamer and new Democratic darling Hasan Piker just proved that the left owns this epidemic. Piker has been embraced by the likes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Representatives Rashida Tlaib, Ro Khanna, Ilhan Omar, and Michigan Democratic Senate nominee Abdul Al-Sayed. And Hasan Piker is a great case study into how the left has a fetish for political violence and proudly wears dehumanization as a brand. As law professor Jonathan Hurley wrote, Hasan Piker is the Pied Piper of the Democratic Party now, leading it down a path of promoting vigilante justice because Republicans, they justify, will burn the country down if they don't take drastic measures. Hasan Piker has been monetizing Charlie Kirk's death since it happened. Here's his latest grave-stomping performance.
Unafraid to die.
Hasan Piker there is doing karaoke of an AI Christian worship style song about Charlie Kirk that was popularized in the wake of his assassination. It was an earnest remembrance song made by fans, but internet culture clowned on it because it was produced by AI and they thought it was cringy. It also went viral on TikTok as part of the Kirkification meme, which I wish I didn't know what that is.
What the is Charlie Kirk's legacy? Every time I open any comment section, it's just Charlie Kirk. And it's not like one or two memes either. Literally every meme has become Kirkified. There's so many that we even got some new words for it. Kirkification. We got King Von, YN Kirk.
And by the way, that ironic nihilistic humor that treats everything as a joke, including murder, unfortunately holds a lot of currency with young people today. So after Hasan Piker sang that song to a crowd of scoffing fans who loved every minute of it, he got a lot of backlash. So then he tried to defend himself. And he said, oh, Republicans are pearl-clutching. They're the ones with no respect for human life.
It's tough for me to act the way you want me to act with like respect and reverence when you have no respect, you know? And I don't even mean like, oh, this is hypocritical. You guys don't show any respect to anybody. I just mean like you didn't show respect to Charlie Kirk. You know what I mean?
Leftists like Hasan Piker intentionally play fast and loose with the definition of violence, let alone political violence is violence meant to advance or punish certain political objectives. That could mean killing those who espouse ideas you don't like, aka Charlie Kirk. The left in the past has said silence is violence. It's not. Hasan Piker has used the phrase social murder, which is not a thing, but it's used to justify Luigi Mangione's vigilantism. So now this week, Hasan Piker is refusing to apologize for making fun of the Charlie Kirk song because he believes that Kirk engaged in immoral politics, thought crimes, if you will.
I don't think he should have been assassinated. And, you know, I made that very clear from the jump, you know, but the idea that I'm supposed to sit there and be like, you know, this guy was doing politics the right way. This guy was, you know, he was a good actor for American politics. Like that was the demand from these fucking animals. And I was never going to do that. I was never going to lie.
Charlie Kirk created Turning Point to engage with students that he disagreed with on college campuses in a substantive, constructive way. The whole point was persuasion and respectful debate. Turning Point sparked healthy discussion, and Kirk himself would debate leftist activists, going so far as to encourage them to come to the front of the Q&A line because he genuinely wanted to get to the heart of the issues and have civil discourse. If Hasan Piker thinks Charlie Kirk did politics the wrong way, what's the right way? Is this it?
Yeah, kill them. Kill those in a video game. Sorry. Holy shit. Murder those in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude.
Charlie Kirk didn't do that. He didn't encourage armed revolution in the streets. He believed in a republic and the power of good faith conversation, free speech. But because Hasan Piker found Charlie Kirk's ideas, conservative ideas, reprehensible, he is, after all, a devoted communist who has been wearing a costume lately that sort of looks like Mao Zedong, aka the most murderous dictator of the 20th century. Because Hasan Piker was offended by Charlie Kirk's non-violent opinions, he sort of thinks his murder was par for the course. Hasan Piker is part of the left's problem with assassination fantasy. There have been 3 documented attempts on Donald Trump's life. Last year, it was discovered that Virginia's current Attorney General, Democrat Jay Jones, mused out loud to a friend over text that if he was trapped in a room with a gun and 2 bullets alongside Hitler, Pol Pot, and Todd Gilbert, the then Republican Speaker of the State House, he would shoot Gilbert. Twice. That wasn't just a sick joke he made offhand in haste, no, because he then proceeded to call that friend he was texting and doubled down, declaring that he thought at least some Republicans deserved to die for their politics, as well as their children, because, quote, only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. A Bernie Sanders volunteer tried to murder the Republican Congressional Caucus, including House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, who very nearly died in the attack. Then an MSNBC anchor went on TV and practically argued that, well, based on his voting record, Steve Scalise had it coming. The media is giving leftists cover for the denialism of their political violence problem. A transgender lunatic shot Charlie Kirk in the neck, and then a left-wing Washington Post columnist shared fake racist quotes attributed to Charlie Kirk. Again, Trump survived a sniper attack, one in which a man was killed, 2 others were gravely wounded, and there's even a picture of the bullet flying just behind Trump's bloodied head, and 46% of Democrats and Kamala Harris voters believed the incident was orchestrated by his supporters to increase sympathy for him. They thought it was a hoax. Again, Democrats don't want to admit that they have a problem with political violence. We've had the attempted assassination of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh by a man who identified as a trans woman. We've had multiple shooting attacks on ICE facilities, a violent, weeks-long siege of a federal courthouse in Portland, nearly 100 crisis pregnancy centers and pro-life groups vandalized or firebombed since the 2022 Dobbs decision overturning Roe v. Wade. And yeah, property destruction is violence. So those are just to name a few examples. And yet the response from dedicated leftists like Hasan Piker will still be, I don't care. The right is still worse. How? Which of these aforementioned violent incidents did the right commit? The left might list the counterpoints of Paul Pelosi or Gabby Giffords or Melissa Hortman. Paul Pelosi's assailant was an anti-war and nudist activist who had been homeless and mentally unstable at the time of the attack. He was registered with the Green Party. He was mainly just a conspiracy theorist. He wasn't motivated by right-wing extremism. Gifford's assailant was a paranoid schizophrenic, and there has never been any credible link between the attack and right-wing ideology because the gunman had no political ideology. In the case of the murder of Democratic Minnesota state legislator Melissa Hortman, yes, her killer, and her husband's killer, I should say, was a Trump supporter. He was anti-abortion. He voted in the 2024 GOP presidential primary. But he was also just a nut. He claimed he was a secretly trained military assassin. He wrote all kinds of weird letters to FBI Director Kash Patel, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, saying incoherent, bizarre things. A mental case, more than anything. But the left still tries to use that example as a defense against the accusation, the credible one, that political violence is rampant on their side. But they're not fooling anyone. I mean, the Democratic Party is comfortable with Hamas sympathizing these days. Hasan Piker has said verbatim that Hamas is 1,000 times better than Israel, the terrorist group responsible for the most brutal attack against the Jews since the Holocaust.
I've also said I'm a harm reduction voter, I'm a lesser evil voter, and therefore I would vote for Hamas over Israel every single time.
Democrats will also cite this study by the Anti-Defamation League, claiming that the right is responsible for nearly all political violence since at least 2015. But this claim is only true if you believe that prison gangs and prison gang-related violence should be put in the right-wing column. Okay. The left can only get away with dismissing their political violence problem if they massage what political violence actually means and fudge the numbers. Now, what are liberal Americans' attitudes about political violence these days? Well, from a September 12th, 2025 YouGov poll that was just 2 days after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, 34% of those who identify as liberal or very liberal consider it acceptable to be happy about the death of a public figure they oppose, compared with just 7% of those who identify as conservative or very conservative. Young people and Democrats were also more likely to say political violence is sometimes acceptable when YouGov asked the same question in June. To answer Hasan Piker's initial question, yeah, the right holds a lot of things sacred, especially Charlie Kirk, who represented civil discourse and the protection of people and their property against political violence perpetrated by those who don't like their thoughts and spoken opinions. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and ring that notification bell so we can keep the party going. And hey, check out the last video I did about the very contentious Lindsay Clancy trial, which has a lot of folks divided in this country, especially women. For more on that, click here. I'm Caroline Downey with National Review, signing off.